The year was 2847, and the galaxy had never known such peace. 47 different species lived together, worked together, and built a future that seemed impossible just 2 centuries ago. At the center of it all stood the Galactic Council, a massive structure floating in space above the planet Nexus Prime. Inside its gleaming halls, representatives from every corner of the galaxy met to solve problems with words instead of weapons. Admiral Doyen stood at the observation deck, watching ships from 100 worlds dock at the station. He was a tall man with silver hair and tired eyes that had seen too much war in his younger days. For the past 30 years, he had served as humanity's chief representative to the Council. The job had changed him. War had made him hard, but peace had taught him patience. Humans had joined the Council 200 years ago, and the galaxy had been surprised by them. Everyone expected humanity to be aggressive and dangerous. After all, humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other on their home world. Their history was written in blood and fire. But when they finally reached the stars and met other civilizations, something changed. Humans became the peacemakers, the mediators, the ones who could see both sides of any argument. "Admiral Doyen, the session is about to begin," said Yunji, his young assistant. She was bright and idealistic, fresh from the diplomatic academy on Earth. She still believed that every problem could be solved with the right conversation. Doyen smiled at her enthusiasm. "Let's go see what crisis needs solving today." The council chamber was a circular room with seats arranged in tiers, like an ancient amphitheater. Each species had their own section, designed to accommodate their unique biology. The insectoid threne needed high temperatures. The aquatic murini sat in tanks of water. Humans simply needed chairs and air. Today's agenda was simple. A new species wanted to join the council. The Vakroth Collective had submitted their application 6 months ago, and all the background checks were complete. They were an advanced civilization with impressive technology and a culture that seemed sophisticated and peaceful. Their representatives stood in the center of the chamber, tall beings with smooth, gray skin and large, intelligent eyes. "The council recognizes the Vakroth Collective," announced the speaker, an ancient creature whose species had founded the council millennia ago. "Admiral Doyen of Earth, you have reviewed their application. What is humanity's position?" Doyen stood up and walked to the speaking platform. He had read every report about the Vakroth. Their society was highly organized. They had art, music, literature, and philosophy. They had avoided wars with their neighbors. On paper they were perfect candidates. But something bothered him. It was a small thing barely noticeable. In all their cultural exchanges, the Vakroth never mentioned children. Their literature had no stories about families. Their art showed no images of youth or growth. When asked about it directly, they changed the subject. His AI advisor had flagged it as unusual. Not dangerous, just unusual. Every species the council had ever encountered valued their young in some way. It was a universal constant like gravity or mathematics. "Humanity votes in favor of admitting the Vakroth Collective," Doyen said, pushing his concerns aside. He had become too cautious in his old age, he thought. Not every cultural difference was a warning sign. "We welcome them to our community of civilizations." The vote was unanimous. The Vakroth representatives bowed gracefully, their faces showing what appeared to be genuine joy. They spoke about honor and cooperation and their desire to learn from the older species of the galaxy. After the session ended, Yunji approached Doyen with a data pad. "The Vakroth have already requested to establish cultural exchange programs with several human colonies. They seem particularly interested in New Harvest, our agricultural world." New Harvest. Doyen frowned. That was a frontier colony far from major shipping routes. It was home to about 50,000 people, mostly farmers and their families. Why would they choose such a remote location? Yunji shrugged. "They said they want to learn about human farming techniques. Should I approve it?" Doyen looked out at the stars, that nagging feeling returning. But he pushed it away. This was the price of peace, you had to trust people. "Approve it," he said quietly. He would regret those words for the rest of his life. 6 months passed quietly. The Vakroth established embassies on 12 human worlds and began trading with other council species. They seemed eager to learn, always asking questions about culture and society. Everything appeared normal. Then the disappearances began. On New Harvest, a farming colony under 3 suns, a mother named Saman reported her daughter missing. The girl was only 7 years old. She had been playing in the fields near their home and simply vanished. The local security forces searched everywhere but found nothing. 3 days later, another child disappeared. Then 2 more. Within a month, 15 children were gone without a trace. The colony administrator contacted the planetary government, who sent investigators. What they discovered made everyone's blood run cold. Security footage from the spaceport showed Vakroth ships arriving and departing at odd hours. When investigators tracked the flight patterns, they found the ships had made unauthorized stops near populated areas. The stops always happened near where children had gone missing. Admiral Doyen received the report while having breakfast in his quarters. He read it 3 times, hoping he had misunderstood. His hands shook as he reached for his communication device. "Get me Commander Jaiwan at Colonial Security. Now." Within hours, a task force was assembled. Commander Jaiwan was humanity's best investigator, a woman who had solved crimes across 20 star systems. She arrived at New Harvest with a team of specialists and began working immediately. They found the first facility hidden underground, beneath what appeared to be a Vakroth cultural center. When they broke through the doors, the smell hit them first. Then they saw the cages. 43 human children sat in small cells, dirty and terrified. They ranged from 5 to 12 years old. Some had been missing for weeks. When the rescuers tried to reach them, the children screamed and backed away, traumatized beyond words. But that was not the worst part. In a separate chamber, investigators found documentation. The Vakroth had been recording everything, treating it like a scientific study. The documents revealed a truth so horrifying that several investigators vomited when they read them. The Vakroth considered human children a delicacy. Not just food, a luxury item, a status symbol among their elite. The younger the child, the higher the price. They had been planning this from the beginning, choosing remote colonies where disappearances might go unnoticed longer. Commander Jaiwan sat in the empty facility after the children had been evacuated, reading through the Vakroth records with tears streaming down her face. She called Admiral Doyen directly. "Sir, there are more facilities. At least 8 that we know of. They have taken hundreds of our children." Doyen felt something break inside him. He had approved the cultural exchange. He had welcomed these monsters into their homes. His voice was completely calm when he spoke, which somehow made it more terrifying. "Secure all the facilities. Get every child out. I am calling an emergency council session." The council chamber had never been so tense. Representatives from every species sat in shocked silence as Jaiwan presented her findings. Images of the cages were shown. Documents were translated and displayed. Some of the council members left the room, unable to watch. The Vakroth representatives stood in the center, completely calm. They did not deny anything. "This is our cultural practice," their lead diplomat said smoothly. "We have rights under the Treaty of Sovereign Customs. What we do within our own facilities is not subject to council law." A Threen representative clicked in anger. "You are claiming this is culture? This is an atrocity." "That is your perspective," the Vakroth replied. "We see it differently. These are resources, not citizens. We have broken no council law." Admiral Doyen stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. His face was pale, his jaw clenched so tight that muscles twitched in his cheek. "You have 48 hours to return every child you have taken. You will surrender everyone responsible for this operation. You will allow us to inspect every Vakroth facility in human space. If you refuse, there will be consequences." The Vakroth diplomat actually smiled. "And if we refuse your demands? Will you file a complaint? This council cannot enforce your morality on us." Doyen walked toward the exit. At the door he turned back. 48 hours. Choose wisely." The Vakroth did not return the children. Instead, they declared that humanity had no authority over their internal affairs. They filed a formal complaint with the council, claiming humans were being aggressive and violating their sovereignty. 24 hours into the deadline, they made their biggest mistake. 3 human rescue ships approached a Vakroth facility on a moon in the outer rim. They carried no weapons, only medical teams ready to evacuate the children being held there. The ships broadcast their peaceful intentions on all frequencies. The Vakroth opened fire without warning. All 3 ships were destroyed. 217 humans died in seconds, most of them doctors and nurses. Among the dead was Yunji, Admiral Doyen's young assistant. She had volunteered for the rescue mission. When Doyen received the news, he sat alone in his office for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. Then he stood up, straightened his uniform and walked to the communication center. "Open a channel to Earth. Encrypt it with military codes. I need to speak with the Council of Nations." The response came within an hour. Humanity was withdrawing from the Galactic Council effective immediately. All human diplomats were recalled. All treaties with the Vakroth were voided. and Admiral Doyen was given complete authority over humanity's military forces. What happened next shocked the galaxy. Humanity had always been peaceful in Council space, always restrained. What most species had forgotten was that humans had not always been peaceful. Before they reached the stars, humans had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. They had built weapons so terrible that they nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. When they joined the Council, they had agreed to dismantle most of those weapons. But they had not destroyed them. They had stored them locked away in massive facilities, guarded and maintained. Just in case. Admiral Doyen activated Protocol Omega, a military response plan that had been written 200 years ago but never used. Within hours, massive hangars in deep space began opening. Ships that had been in storage for centuries came online, their AI systems waking from long sleep. The reserve armada emerged from the darkness. These were not exploration vessels or trade ships. These were warships, built during humanity's most violent era, upgraded with modern technology but still carrying weapons banned by every Council treaty. Commander Jaiwan was promoted to general and given command of ground forces. She selected soldiers for a special unit called the Terran Reapers, troops trained for the kind of warfare that humanity had promised to never use again. The galaxy watched in disbelief as human military strength multiplied overnight. Council species sent urgent messages, begging humanity to reconsider. Some threatened to intervene militarily. Doyen's response was broadcast on every channel in known space, in every language. To the Vakroth Collective, you have touched our children. You have killed those who came to save them. There will be no negotiation, no mercy, no forgiveness. You will cease to exist. To all Council species, we are withdrawing from your authority. Any attempt to interfere will be considered an act of war. We do not wish to fight you, but we will if necessary. Stay out of this. To humanity across all colonies, remember why we are doing this. Remember the children. Remember that some lines must never be crossed. The message ended with silence. No questions were taken. No discussion was offered. The Vakroth, realizing perhaps too late what they had awakened, mobilized their military. They had a strong fleet, well-armed and experienced. They sent warnings to human space, threatening massive retaliation if attacked. Humanity did not respond with words. 72 hours after the rescue ships were destroyed, human forces struck simultaneously across 36 Vakroth locations. They did not send warnings. They did not offer surrender terms. They simply appeared from slip space and opened fire. The first priority was the children. Special Forces teams teleported directly into every known Vakroth facility holding human captives. The Reapers moved through the buildings like ghosts, extracting children and eliminating any Vakroth who tried to stop them. Within 6 hours, 412 children were recovered alive. 83 were found dead. General Jaiwan stood among the rescued children in a medical ship, watching doctors work frantically to save the most injured. A little boy no older than 6 held her hand, too traumatized to speak. She looked at the tactical display showing Vakroth military positions. Her voice was ice. Begin the annihilation. The Vakroth military had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had fought border skirmishes and small conflicts, but nothing had prepared them for total war against a species that had been holding back for 2 centuries. Human fleets arrived at every Vakroth colony within days. The strategy was simple and brutal. Evacuate the children first, then destroy everything else. There would be no occupation, no prisoners, no rebuilding. Just complete erasure. The first major battle happened at Vakroth Station 7, a military fortress orbiting their 3rd largest colony. The Vakroth commander believed his defenses were impenetrable. He had 500 warships and defensive platforms that could destroy anything approaching. Admiral Doyen sent a single message before the attack. Remember New Harvest. The human fleet did not approach slowly. They did not test the defenses. 300 warships dropped out of slip space already firing. Weapons that the Council had banned for being too destructive tore through Vakroth shields like paper. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, Station 7 was debris floating in space. Every Vakroth ship was destroyed. The human fleet moved on to the next target without slowing down. On the ground, General Jaiwan led the Reapers into Vakroth cities. Their mission was to destroy military targets and infrastructure, but the Vakroth tried to use civilians as shields, hiding weapons in residential areas. The Reapers did not hesitate. Every building that housed Vakroth military personnel was leveled. Every factory that produced weapons was reduced to ash. Jaiwan had lost her ability to feel mercy the moment she saw those cages on New Harvest. Target the command center, she ordered her strike team. I want their leadership to know we are coming for them specifically. Meanwhile, humanity deployed weapons that made the council species watching in horror. Nanite swarms that consumed metal and circuitry, leaving biological matter untouched but destroying every piece of technology they encountered. Gravity bombs that compressed matter into singularities, erasing entire military bases from existence. Viral programs that infected Vakroth computer systems and shut down life support on their ships. The Vakroth government, finally understanding their mistake, sent desperate messages offering surrender. They promised to return all remaining children, pay reparations, and submit to any punishment humanity demanded. Admiral Doyen read their message in his command center. Captain Minjae, his tactical officer, waited for orders. Sir, they are offering complete surrender. What should we tell them? Doyen's face showed no emotion. Tell them they should have surrendered 48 hours ago when I gave them the chance. Tell them it is too late now. Sir, some council species are threatening to intervene. The Threen have deployed their fleet to intercept us. Disable their ships. Do not destroy them unless they fire first. They are not our enemy, but they need to understand they cannot stop this. The Threen fleet arrived to find themselves outmatched and outmaneuvered. Human ships used electronic warfare to shut down Threen weapon systems without firing a shot. The Threen admiral received a message: go home. Protect your own children. Let us protect ours. The Threen withdrew, as did every other species that considered intervention. The galaxy began to understand something terrifying. Humanity had always possessed this power. They had simply chosen not to use it. Until now. The siege of the Vakroth homeworld began on day 21 of the war. 300 human warships surrounded the planet, cutting off all escape routes. Millions of Vakroth lived on the surface, including civilians who had nothing to do with the atrocities. Doyen stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the planet below. Minjae approached quietly. Sir, we have confirmation that all human captives have been recovered or accounted for. The survivors are receiving medical care. The final count is 512 children recovered alive. 147 found deceased. Doyen closed his eyes. 147 children who would never go home. He thought about their parents, their families, their futures that were stolen from them. Sir, what are your orders regarding the homeworld? When Doyen opened his eyes, they were empty of everything except purpose. Make sure every human ship is clear of the blast radius. Then activate the stellar collapse device. We end this today. Sir, that will destroy the entire planet. There are millions of civilians down there. They built their civilization on the suffering of children. Now it ends. The weapon fired. The Vakroth homeworld died in silence. In space, there is no air to carry the sound of a planet breaking apart. The stellar collapse device worked exactly as designed, destabilizing the planet's core until gravity did the rest. Within hours, the world that had birthed the Vakroth species was nothing but scattered rocks and cooling debris. Admiral Doyen watched it happen without speaking. Captain Minjae stood beside him, equally silent. Around them, the bridge crew worked quietly, their faces showing no celebration, no joy. Only grim satisfaction that justice had been delivered. All Vakroth military assets have been eliminated, sir, Minjae reported. Our intelligence confirms no surviving colonies, no hidden bases, no ships in deep space. The species is extinct. Casualty report for our forces? 12,000 dead, 31,000 wounded. Mostly from the initial engagements before they understood how outmatched they were. 12,000 humans dead. 147 children murdered. Doyen felt the weight of every single loss. He had given the orders that started this war, and he would carry those deaths for the rest of his life. Send the fleet home. Recall all units. The war is over. News of the Vakroth extinction spread through the galaxy within hours. The reaction was complicated. Some species were horrified at humanity's capacity for total destruction. Others were quietly relieved that someone had drawn a clear line about what could never be tolerated. The Galactic Council requested an emergency meeting. They wanted humanity to answer for what they had done, to explain their actions, to face judgment. Humanity agreed to return. But on their own terms. When Admiral Doyen entered the council chamber 3 weeks later, the atmosphere was completely different from his last visit. Every species representative looked at him with new eyes. Some with fear, some with respect, some with both. He walked to the center of the chamber, not as a petitioner but as an equal who demanded to be heard. We are here to rejoin the council, Doyen began, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. But things will be different now. For 200 years we have been patient. We have been peaceful. We have accepted limitations on our technology and our military because we believed in this council's mission. That patience was mistaken for weakness. Our restraint was seen as inability rather than choice. The Vakroth believed they could harm our children and face no consequences because the council preferred words over action. The speaker of the council, ancient and wise, clicked softly. Admiral Doyen, the council cannot condone the complete extinction of a species, regardless of their crimes. There must be rules even in war. Then let me be clear about humanity's rules, Doyen replied. We are peaceful because we choose to be. We are patient because we believe in civilization. We negotiate because we respect other cultures. But if you harm our children, if any species harms the children of any member world, you will learn what we become when we stop choosing peace. He paused, letting his words sink in. We do not regret what we did to the Vakroth. We regret that we had to do it. We regret that the Council's laws protected those who deserved no protection. We regret that our children paid the price for our belief in your system. General Jaiwan stepped forward, standing beside Doyen. We propose new protocols. Universal laws protecting all children across all species. Any violation results in immediate military response from the entire Council, not just diplomatic sanctions. These protocols will be enforced with real consequences, she continued. No more hiding behind cultural differences. No more claims of sovereignty when basic morality is violated. The galaxy needs to understand that some lines cannot be crossed. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some species supported the proposal immediately. Others worried about the precedent, about giving any species the right to determine universal morality. But they all voted yes. Every single one. Because they had seen what humanity could do when pushed too far, and none of them wanted to be next. The Terran protocols became galactic law within a month. Humanity's military capabilities, once hidden, were now public knowledge. The reserve armada remained active, a reminder that peace was enforced by those strong enough to demand it. Admiral Doyen retired 6 months later. He returned to Earth, to a small house by the ocean, far from politics and war. But he could not escape what he had done. Every night, he dreamed of children in cages and planets breaking apart. General Jaiwan took his place as humanity's chief representative. She established the new Harvest Memorial on Earth, a garden where the names of every child lost were carved in stone. Parents came from across human space to remember, to grieve, to ensure their children were never forgotten. On the first anniversary of the war's end, a young Threen diplomat approached Jaiwan with a question. General, my people teach our young about what happened. They ask me why the humans were so brutal, so absolute in their response. What should I tell them? Jaiwan looked at the memorial, at the names of children who would never grow up, never laugh again, never know love or hope or dreams. Tell them this, she said quietly. Tell them that there are beings in this universe who value their young above all else. Above peace, above treaties, above their own lives. Tell them that humanity loves our children more than we fear becoming monsters. And tell them that if they remember this lesson, they will never have to learn it the hard way. The young diplomat nodded and left. Jaiwan stood alone in the garden, watching the sun set over Earth. Somewhere in the galaxy, other species were teaching their children the same lesson. The Vakroth had been erased from existence, but their legacy remained. They had taught the universe that there were lines that should never be crossed, and that humanity would burn entire worlds to protect their young. The lesson had been learned. In blood, in fire, in extinction. But it had been learned.